When you lie, whether that's a lie construct of personality, and we'll get deep into that in this video, you diminish the light quotient that you're receiving and that you're projecting. Therefore, it's impossible to create a heavenly existence with lies in your field. So we'll get into that. This is what this whole video is about. It's about shining a light on the potential lies that are blocking your wealth. And then furthermore, I use the word Empress and I use the term Empress, and I don't use these terms lightly. The Empress to me is the sovereign creatrix, the sovereign creatress. She freed herself from ancient shackles. She is aware of her connection to Earth. She is aware of her cosmic responsibility. Welcome to all my dragonatrixes out there. We're gonna have another real ass sit down. Hey, thank you. So like, did you want to be kissed? She's like, nah, don't you fucking dare just kiss me in my mouth. Sorry. The dragons, they're a specific breed, and some of you may know. You hold the energy in yourself. So welcome to one of the most awkward video introductions ever, but here we are. We're gonna have a real ass sit down today, just the way I like it, breaking down the topic which I call wealth blockage. Your lies won't get you to your Empress Era. And before we get into it, I want to break down some of the words and the context behind it, because I don't use words lightly, and I might use wealth or lies in a different context. So let's get into that. For this video today, we're going to open some tabs, right? As you know, this is meant as a transmission, or maybe you don't know, maybe this is your first time. In that case, yes, welcome, stay here. It's gonna go deep. And we're gonna open some tabs. So rather than me providing any answers, I'm providing a format or a structure for you to self-interrogate. So a self-observation format, basically. And that's what this is all about. So I'm really excited for today's video topic, because it came through really strongly. We're in a period of purification collectively, yeah, but also every one of us individually is going through a major clearing. Everything that is no longer truth has to go. Why? Because we can't get to heaven with a shit ton of lies weighing us down. And when I say heaven, I am of course not talking about some afterlife utopian paradise fantasy. I'm talking about heaven on earth right now, because that's what we're creating. A potentially non-dualistic experience of life. And I know people say Earth is a dualistic realm. We don't know if that's true. Maybe it's not. Let's find out, right? You can only try. So let's do our best to eliminate all lies and see what kind of reality we'd be stepping into when we let go of all of this. So what is wealth, or what do I consider wealth? Wealth to me is the potentiality that lives in your field. So all of your desires, dreams, visions, potential projects, everything you hold in your heart, everything your essence longs to create in this lifetime or in this realm, not only in this lifetime, but any creative project that your essence craves to give birth to. That to me is what wealth is. Does that entail financial wealth? Absolutely. Absolutely. I've seen witnessed my closest people, my mentors, create a business. Is like, the word doesn't even cut it anymore. I use the word garden now. They've created their own garden so self-sufficiently that the seeds that they planted are now generating $100,000 monthly. And this is possible for each and every one of us. So this is a part of wealth, absolutely. Like, we are all here to create our own garden, aka our own business, in a very efficient and organic way. So there's something that lives in you, you're meant to create, and your greatest gift will efficiently create income, because as you nourish, you'll be nourished. That is what I consider wealth. But in essence, wealth is anything that lives in your field as a potential. Wealth in form of the most purified, beautiful, romantic, erotic love. Wealth in a sense of absolute creative freedom, like being able to fulfill your inner child's dreams, whatever that may be. I was just at India's album release party last night, and she's family, like straight up family. And to see how she used to be a heroin addict, like she was sharing her story, and if you don't know her, Indie 108 on TikTok, check her out. She's just like, God, my inner child. Like, when I first met her, I'm like, you're a long lost brother. My inner brother recognizes your inner brother. Where have you been? So, but what I'm saying, seeing her create this large following that then gave her a platform to share her creative gifts, and seeing that on her birthday last night at her party, and her performing, my inner child was like, yo, there's something living in us that we're not expressing yet. That is wealth. What I witnessed last night was wealth. To see someone's inner child's dream come true because they made it come true, and how far she'd come, that's wealth. And I wanted to share that perspective, because when I use the term wealth, it's very packed to me, and it's very potent. What do I mean by lies? Lies are at this level that we're probably most of us are at or communicating at. It's not the blatant lies of, oh, well, I told my boo thing that I was seeing a girlfriend, but I was actually meeting up with my ex. No, that's not the caliber of lies we're talking about. We're talking about more subtle lies. We're talking about something that is not in resonance of truth with your essence. When you're in truth, not only speaking truth, but when everything energetically is in truth, there is such a high quotient of light you're able to receive and project and bring through. And I'm butchering these words because I can't verbalize what I'm perceiving. But when you lie, whether that's a lie construct of personality, and we'll get deep into that in this video, you diminish the light quotient that you're receiving and that you're projecting. Therefore, it's impossible to create a heavenly existence with lies in your field. So we'll get into that. This is what this whole video is about. It's about shining a light on the potential lies that are blocking your wealth. And then furthermore, I use the word Empress, and I use the term Empress, and I don't use these terms lightly. Like, you will never hear me use the word goddess just being thrown around. And I'm allergic to that shit, because when we do that, we rape the word. And I hope YouTube isn't like pointing out the algorithm because I use that term. Whatever. Sorry. But when we use these terms that are so packed with so much depth and we just throw them around, we piss on what's sacred. And I mean, piss is sacred too. So that's also not the right way to say it, but you get what I'm saying. So I don't use these terms lightly. And when people, overutilize the word goddess, I'm like, it cringes me, because I've rarely called another woman goddess. I may be able to count it in one hand, and it's only when I actually see the face of the goddess come through, when there's like actually the embodiment of divinity, and it's quite rare. And when people throw that around, we take away the meaning of the word. The word empress is not something that you can utter lightly. Like, it's not something like, you go queen, look at you baddie. Like, that's easy. You can say that shit. Empress does not come out of the mouth easily because of the velocity that is behind that, the meaning that is in that, and also the responsibility. So the Empress to me is the sovereign creatrix, the sovereign creatress. She freed herself from ancient shackles. She is aware of her connection to Earth. She is aware of her cosmic responsibility. And that is the energy that I'm cultivating. So in that, when I use that term, that's the type of woman I'm calling in. And that's usually the type of woman that resonates with me. So this is why I'm here to build community, because we have to build a grid around that. We have to come together and heal and create with this potency of the Empress living in all of us and being embodied, or wanting to be embodied. So that as a foundation, that as a breakdown, because they deserve the breakdown. So now let's get into the topic for real. And we've set the foundation. Let's get into the lies. We're going to explore everything that could potentially be in between you and that potentiality that holds all of your desires, all of your projects, all of your visions, all of the seeds you planted, sprouted here in this reality. And I call that the reality of wealth, or the reality of heaven on earth, if you wish so. So the reason why you're not seeing heaven on earth in your reality, or you're not feeling the frequency of it on a daily basis, might be very much so connected to lying. And lying has deep dimensions to it. Like I just said, we're not talking about this, oh, I was, like telling my hub I'm seeing my girl when I was texting, or seeing my ex. These are not the type of lies we're talking about. Now, if that's still something that runs in your reality, and it's still the type of lies that you're telling or experiencing, then yes, of course, that's part of it. But we're talking about the more subtle lies that are a little harder to detect unless we bring in the right perspective and the right self-observation. That's what we're going to do. Because you cannot bring lies, baggage into a heavenly reality. You can't fake a frequency, and there is no purity without purification. So that's what a lot of us are experiencing, especially those that carry this Empress energetic in their heart. There is a purity, and an immense purity that is longing to be created through you. And if you're that, I know you're not settling for anything less but the truth. And in that, we have to unmask all of the the lies that were created in the past by past versions of us, certain foundations that are based on lies, relationships that are based on lies. And so we're going into the first dimension of lies, which are structural lies. Let's uncover that. There are structural or foundational lies that have created the current reality we're in. And as you can see, this might not be as easy to detect as, oh, I just caught myself lying to my mom about something, right? This is a little more entangled. And an example for that would be starting to go to the gym. And you started to go to the gym not because you're like, oh, I'd love to be stronger. I'd love to have a big booty, because a butt, by the way, represents power, which I think is really interesting, but that's besides the point. But I always had a fascination with just big glutes, and I found out that it represents power. And the word buttock actually means land or piece of land, and that's kind of equivalent to being in power. So the fascination that all of us have with like giant glutes is based on something deeper than just physical attraction or aesthetically pleasing looks. But yeah, okay, I'm not gonna go into that tangent. I just thought it was cool. But let's say you're not just going to the gym because you want to be stronger and you want to be more healthy, but you're going to the gym because you feel absolutely insecure. Maybe you even hate your body, and you go because you think you're not good enough, and you feel like you have to change to be able to love yourself or look in the mirror and just accept yourself. And I've been a gym rat since I am 14, so I've seen this plenty of times. I've seen it within me. Now, 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, in my case, you might have forgotten why you started that gym journey. And all of a sudden you find yourself going to the gym 2 times a day. And if you miss one day, you're starting to feel super anxious and looking at yourself like something's wrong, or you're grabbing your stomach, or you're looking at your butt and you're like, is my butt flat already again? Or in a lot of cases, you see men that go on testo and they start to take steroids, and you're like, bro, what are you doing? The gym is meant to make you healthy. You're fucking ruining your body right now. What are you doing? So it's because this whole experience is based on a lie. And to untangle that lie, we have to find the lie first, and oftentimes the whole structure has to crumble. Because now your whole gym routine, and the gym is just one example, right? I'm just painting a picture here. The whole gym routine is based on a lie. And you're 10 years in, but you're still upholding that lie. And you have to figure out what would happen if you allow that to crumble. So basically, what would happen if you stopped going to the gym? Would the insecurity come back? Like, was the gym just masking an insecurity? And if that's happening, the whole structure is a lie. So that's the case where I had to take a break, because I could see that, yes, of course, it's a healthy addiction, but it is still an addiction. It is not in truth. I'm running from something. I'm running from hating myself. I'm running from looking a certain way that I then can no longer love and accept. So I consciously took a 1-year break from the gym, and currently I'm taking another break because my body wants more flow, and my body wants a different energy. So then when we stop, all of these lies can come to the surface, and we can look at them and see, wow, is this true for me? Do I still feel that way? And in that, we can also untangle the lie that for me was, oh, if I'm not working out, my body will fall apart, right? And I could not untangle that lie until I proved myself and showed myself, no, your body is very intelligent and your body is not going to fall apart within a couple weeks just because you haven't gone to the gym. And that's a lie that I could have not uncovered if I kept upholding the gym as the structure that I created. Like, it was so extreme that even when I got my breast implants 10 years ago, they told me to rest. And 2 days later, I was at the gym again because I was so afraid to lose my physique. And that was obnoxious. And that wasn't healthy. And all of these lies that I told myself, like, my body isn't intelligent, or my body is betraying me, basically. Because if I believe that my body is breaking down within a matter of 2 weeks if I don't go to the gym, what a terrible place to be in. That doesn't feel like a safe temple. And this is something that had to crumble. If I kept going to the gym and I never took a break and I never actually revisited the reason why I started, I wouldn't have discovered that. And maybe I would still be a hamster in a wheel running away from something. So do you see how structural lies work? Another example, and just to like really bring it home, because I don't have the answer what that is for you. So I'm just opening up a couple tabs so you can see if some may resonate. And even by just bringing in a term for that, we now have a better way to observe our reality. And now we have kind of like this vantage point that we can observe in, like structural lies. And it's important for us to revisit relationships, circumstances, and ask ourselves, who were we when we started this? Because when you're 10 years in or 5 years in a relationship or a friendship or a work environment, you forget sometimes who you were when you started it, and you evolved. And who started this whole thing might have been someone very disempowered, and that no longer matches who you are now, but you're still upholding the reality that a very insecure version of you might have created years ago. So with relationships, let's say you entered a relationship with immense insecurity, codependency, fear, not feeling good enough, whatever it may be. And that was part of the lies that you told yourself. And lies because your highest essence or your truest essence would never look at you like that. Your truest essence does not contain insecurity. So therefore, it's a lie. Everything that makes you insecure in itself is a lie. So now you're 5 years in. And based on who you were 5 years ago, maybe you settled for a lot of things. Maybe you accepted certain behavior because that version of you 5 years ago thought she deserved that or didn't deserve better. Maybe you were okay with things that you're actually not okay with because you believed you didn't have a choice. Maybe you put the relationship above your truth because you were fucking afraid to be alone. These are structural lies. Now, 5 years in, maybe you've forgotten who you were when you entered the relationship, but now you see there are things missing, or it just isn't nourishing for your soul. Like, you are on an essence level, are not being seen and not being met, and there's something missing. Oftentimes, this is when something major has to crumble, right? Oftentimes we have to take a break, and it's not like, oh, we got to take a break. Like, I don't believe in that, but it's more so maybe we need time apart. Like, not a break where everything goes, but we need time apart, or maybe the relationship has to look like it's falling apart. Maybe there actually has to be a breakup. And because again, you can't fake a frequency, and you can't untangle certain foundational lies if you're not really experiencing something falling apart. And I've seen this in so many of the relationships around me and in my own. There was a time where it's like, no, this no longer works. We need to break up. And once that seed is like planted, it's almost like then you can see all of the lies. You can rebuild from there on. Like every relationship that I know has gone through that. Every truly beautiful, truthful relationship has gone through a phase of a breakup where it seemed like we're done. This relationship is over. Just to let the old shit crumble and come back together. Because you cannot untangle the structural lies or the foundational lies if you don't let the whole thing collapse. So the same with your work environment. Who were you when you started whatever you might be currently in? And was this based on a lie? Are you working a 9 to 5, or are you working in a certain environment because maybe a past version told you that maybe even money doesn't matter to you? You believed that you couldn't attain it. And maybe for the version 5 years ago, that was true, right? Maybe 5 years ago, attaining wealth or attaining financial money, financial freedom, financial money was actually not attainable. So 10 years ago in Germany, where I was from, attaining wealth, creating financial literacy and freedom was a totally different landscape. Like it felt impossible. The only way I saw was like somehow just making ends meet, and I settled for that. And started jobs based on that. I had to untangle that to see, wait, first of all, I need money. And it's important. It's a building block of this reality. It's power in motion. So yes, I need this. It's a non-negotiable. Now that I recognize that I need it, I will find a way to make this happen. So now if you told yourself somewhere along the way that money isn't that important for you, or maybe that you're not in the position to make money, maybe you started a certain job, a certain career, or whatever endeavor based on that. Maybe you settled for something that is safe. But now when we revisit that, maybe that is no longer true. So you've built something maybe on a foundational lie. That shit has to crumble for you to make that heavenly reality come true. Because you can't fake a frequency, and heaven is real. It's a real experience, but no lies are allowed there. So these are foundational lies. This is something that the moment you ask the question will reveal itself to you. So yes, you can, of course, journal, go into it, revisit friendships, work environments, maybe even the place you live, and ask yourself, who was the person that created this current reality? Who was I back then? And in that, you may find a lot of foundational lies. And to really just transmute them, the shit has to crumble. Everything that was built on lies has to crumble. And then you can either rebuild it, or it's no longer needed. It's no longer in tune with the heavenly reality you're creating. But again, as you ask the question, life will reveal that to you, because it's all one. Once you put this out into the field, everything will work with you to show you, hey, this is where you weren't in purity, right? If purity becomes your North Star, and with that wealth becomes your North Star, because it's all interrelated, these things will be shown to you. And we can't compartmentalize relationship or business, because it's not separate. On an energetic level, that separation doesn't exist, right? So sometimes we work towards the business and we really put in everything we can, and we wonder why it isn't blossoming or why that seed isn't sprouting. And our relationship is a pile of garbage. Right? It's like there's so much missing there. And oftentimes that is affecting everything else in the reality. So the moment you're being truthful with your relationship, watch your business blossom. At the moment you're being truthful with maybe your friendships or your environment, watch all else blossom. We can't compartmentalize it. We do that in our head for structure, like, oh, I'm happy with my relationship, or I'm happy with my business, or the money is a 6 out of 10, whatever. But it's all interrelated. So this is why it's so important that we're being truthful in every area of our life, because on an energetic level, areas do not exist. And if we are lying in one level, or we have a relationship built on structural lies, this will affect our business, our garden, much more than we may think. And so that's why this is really important. And this is, again, for you to get into, explore, ask the question, and then ask more questions and open up curiosity of life. Show me the foundational lies that have created this current reality for me. And life will show you. The next dimension of lies, let me have a sip of water. The next dimension of lies are personality lies. And that is connected to the personalities we have created. So if, let's say, certain environments required a certain type of protection, we create personalities, right? If we grow up in a rough environment, you might need to assist or protect your essence, or you feel like that. And so you create a personality that helps you to get through a certain environment. We all had our fair share of traumatic experiences in childhood. That's the path that forges strength, or at least it was. Maybe it's different at this point for the children that are coming to this planet, but for us, a lot of us had to go through really rough things, and we had to create certain personalities to survive in these environments. They are protectors. Freaking thank them. There's nothing you have to get rid of. They're beautiful. They were a necessary cogwheel in your existence. So in my case, let's say that rough little tomboy that was loved by everyone and was usually friends with the boys, but with everyone, right? I was just like everyone. I loved everyone. Everyone loved me. It was just very sweet. And then I went to a Catholic girls' school, and all of a sudden I was met with an environment that was really freaking uncomfortable for me. I felt dumb. I felt bullied. I felt not good enough, because all of a sudden I had all of these rich little girls around me, and here I was raised by a single mom that was a waitress, and I'm like, yo, this is really uncomfortable. So to not get like smashed by this environment, I created this rough kind of like, I don't give a fuck and don't you fuck with me exterior. Was that real? Was that who I was in elementary school? No, but it was formed when I was probably around 10 years old. And that stuck with me. I thank that part because it allowed me to not completely crumble in this, for me, hostile environment. But it became a part of me. It became a persona. And it took me a long, long while to uncover this persona. That is a lie. Everything that this persona builds will be a lie. Every relationship or every connection that this persona forms will be a lie. And that can be hard to detect. And why is it a lie? Because this persona, this personality is not your essence. It wasn't my essence. And it took me to move from Germany to the US to uncover that persona. Because all of a sudden, the cynicism, the wit, the sharp tongue that I developed in German, and that whole, right, like, I'm from the streets, right? That didn't apply to the US. Because it's like, it was the persona was created based on the environment. Just because I listened to German ghetto rap didn't make me an actual thug. So that was fake. Like, that whole persona was built on fake foundations. And that personality stuck with me, but I couldn't detect it because it was so enmeshed in the environment. And the environment I grew up in Germany. When I moved to the US, I'm like, oh shit, wait, first of all, there's a language barrier. My English isn't as good. So a lot of the wittiness or the cynicism, that sharp, like, don't you even go there with me. It didn't work because I didn't have the vocabulary for it. It also didn't work because a lot of it was situational and environmental. So a lot of the swag that the German me cultivated to give off a certain, like, paint a certain picture for people didn't work in English or in the US. And this is when that personality crumbled. Because all of a sudden I didn't have my words to defend me. All of a sudden I didn't have my sharp tongue or my wit. And I felt this immense shield coming off of me. So in that, like, when I moved to LA, I had to become more truthful because I didn't have this shield. It didn't work. And I realized how heavy that was and how dense that was and how that wasn't me. So this is what I would call a personality lie. That can be hard to detect. That's why I always tell people, put yourself in different environments. And if you want to know more, either watch the last video on YouTube that I made before this one, the one on divine order or chaos. There's one on personality versus essence, and also Internal Intelligence Masterclass. It's free, it's linked down below, because that will help you to uncover your personalities, aka your protectors, versus your essence. This is not a 3 steps how to do this. Again, this is very subjective. I can only point you towards that. I can only open a couple tabs for you. You have to observe yourself. And this will be continuous self-observation. Like, this is not a quick fix. This is continuous awareness, continuously asking, is that my truth? Who is that right now? And in that, these personalities have to eventually, don't have to go right now, but they have to be uncovered. Because again, when you connect with other people based on this personality, it's a lie. If you hold relationships in your life that are basically just 2 personalities connecting with one another, there's no place for that in heaven. Straight up. Right? Ye must convert 2 children to enter the kingdom of heaven. And I'm sorry if I'm butchering this Bible quote, but what it's speaking is, to me, on purity. And the kingdom of heaven is an existence that is possible in this lifetime, not something that is achieved after death, but it's right here. But there is no place for fakeness. There's no place for that. And there's no place for lies. So again, Internal Intelligence has the journal prompt and the process on how to communicate, uncover these personalities, and that's a journey that only you can take, because again, it's super subjective. The next one is energetic lies. And what I just said is the whole, you can't take that into heaven, you can't fake a frequency. So energetic lies is when the internal isn't matching your word, or what you're saying, what you're presenting isn't backed up by energy. So let's say, yeah, like I just said, you can't fake yourself into heaven. And a lot of people portray this like fake evolved version of themselves, and you can do that, but that's not going to affect your internal realm in the way that you want. Like, you can portray yourself as more evolved than you are, but what's the fucking point if you feel empty, if you don't feel fulfilled, if you don't feel that bliss of truth within? It's pointless. You can't fake yourself into ascended mastery. So all these people that come to you with a namaste sat nam, but you can feel them raging inside, and what they're actually saying is go fuck yourself. You're like, what the fuck is happening? It's like, okay, we all know that one like yoga teacher in our yoga studio that is super passive aggressive, but it's all like love and light, namaste. And we're like, nah, I see you, bitch. Just be real. Like, what is actually going on? You can't fake yourself into ascended mastery. Ascended masters are one thing, and that is pure. Not pure in a moralistic way, but pure in a sense of they are nothing but truth. Everything they say is backed up by their energetics. Everything they portray is real. So you will never find an ascended master in a lie. It's that doesn't go together. And in that, how many times are you portraying something or saying something that isn't backed up by your energetics? That's a big one. And that was really interesting for me. Again, an observation that I made when I moved to the US 6 years ago, because that doesn't really happen that much in Germany. Like, yes, people are polite for sure, but people are kind of like more cold and passive aggressive. But in the US, it was like the weirdest thing for me. When I moved here and I moved to West Hollywood, like I feel like a lot of us start off in West Hollywood. It's so interesting, like such an interesting portal. But this whole like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I love your shoes. And you're like, hey, doing good, thank you. Right? It's like, you're like, what is this? Like, I can't compute like with this fakeness. And so this is like, a lot of times, again, especially in the US, it's like people say something, but it's totally empty. Like this whole like, oh, how you doing? Love your outfit. It's just empty. Like, what is this? Or this whole like, smiley persona, but you can feel they're in resentment and rage. And I'd rather 100 out of 100 times have someone tell me to go fuck myself rather than someone smiling in my face with a yeah, namaste. All right. So how are you doing that? And we all do that. That's your exploration to find out in which ways you're doing this. At this point, I'm very in tune when I say something that just doesn't resonate in my body. That means I'm lying right now. That means I'm saying something, it's not energetically backed up. And people can feel that. My comment section is a pretty good exploration for that. A guy commented recently under one of the videos, and he said something along the lines like, oh, I wish that, I wish what you're saying was true if you don't have a male sponsor, or if you don't, like, even if you don't show yourself half naked, something like that. Whatever, I'm messing this up. But it fucking triggered me. It triggered me because it was diminishing the work that is actually behind everything I've created. And there are many versions. And I responded. And what was interesting is there were 10 different versions of me that all had a different emotion connected to that. And it's really cool to see that. And one was legitimately like, oh damn, bro, you truly missed the point of the video, and I'm sad because I can't debate belief systems with you. And it was also like a disempowerment I felt, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could show you what I was seeing. But there were also different versions that were like, fuck off. Like, what the fuck? Get off my fucking page. Like, what are you doing here, right? All of these versions. And then we curate this one message that sounds the best. And yet this person can still feel all of the other versions of you. So thank this man, bless him, for writing that in my comment section, because it allowed me to see who's still working in me. And that's what I'm saying. You can't fake yourself into evolution. And if you're trying to portray a more evolved picture of you, you're the only one losing here. Because the worst blockage to wealth and everything that you desire, heaven, is you thinking or pretending you're already there. And you're like, is that really how heaven feels? Do you really think that's how heaven feels? It's freeing. It's opening. So next time, one of the ways to explore that is, if you get a message, if you're talking to a friend, if you're talking to your boss, or in your relationship, write out all of the versions that come through. Don't just curate what sounds best, but actually give every single version of you a voice, right? Okay, who wants to speak here? Like that little hood rat is coming through and is telling you to fuck off, or I'm gonna call some people. No, I won't. But what does she have to say? That's really interesting. Go on. And then there is the other version that is like, let me show you how much I can perceive and how evolved I am. All right, what does she have to say? And somewhere there's truth in that. And there's nothing you have to transmute, right? This is not for you to get rid of all these versions of you really quick. This is just for you to self-observe, to be real with where you're at. Because the biggest blockage to wealth is you bullshitting yourself with your evolution. So these are the energetic lies. And that, like, the moment something triggers you a little bit, that's a really beautiful way to observe who's coming through. Like, who's speaking right now. Because you'll see you have a whole defense force coming out. And just because you choose what sounds the best or most appropriate to you doesn't mean that this person can't feel all of it. The person in front of you, or the person you're writing the email to or whatever, can feel all of the voices within you. And when you give all of the voices an outlet, that's what truth is. If you're actually like putting in all of the different components, you'll have truth. And that will allow you to energetically back up what you're saying. The censoring part of you might not like it, or the part of you that wishes she was more evolved or more enlightened might not like it. But it doesn't matter, because only truth goes into heaven, or opens the portals to heaven. Only childlike being is allowed in heaven. And children are one thing, truthful. Doesn't mean they're moralistically pure. No, some children are really freaking sly. And some children do like interesting things. Like, I just had this little 2-year young, precious angel. Like, oh my God, like this little girl, baby, literally little baby, is like a whole galactic council in a person. And she sat next to me, and another kid was playing, and he fell down, and she had the most evil laugh coming out of her. It was ridiculous. It was so funny. Is that impure? No, it's purity. It's purity, because it's real. There's a little 2-year young girl sitting next to me, a baby, having an evil laugh when another boy fell down. That's real. That's purity, right? So it's like, become a freaking baby again, where you love and own everything that is you. And maybe heaven doesn't sound like Namaste Satnam, but it might sound like fuck you, because that's just what's real in the moment. So the next layer, and shout out to my people who are truly Satnam and Namaste, because in that, the real ones out there. Okay, let's go into the next dimension of lies, which are emotional lies, or also emotional masking. Another one that can be a little harder to detect. And emotional lies are, it's kind of connected to the energetic lies, but it's its own animal, I feel like. Let's start here. Let's say in society as a whole, or in our family pod, there was a certain range of emotions that was allowed and that was okay, and everything that was beyond that spectrum of emotions had to be masked or wasn't allowed. Right? In society, we have that, like, politeness is allowed. Anger, immense rage, immense sadness, not allowed. Right? There are certain taboo emotions, or somehow society or a family pod makes us feel like certain emotions are taboo. Even though they're on the human spectrum, you should not feel them, or you're not allowed to even have them. If you have them, suppress them, but you shouldn't have them in the first place, even though they're on the human spectrum, right? So when that happens, and that doesn't happen with words, that might happen subconsciously, that might happen by you as a child observing how your family masked their emotions. Let's say your mom felt immense anger towards your father, and she didn't just tell him, right? She wasn't like shouting or screaming or telling him she's angry, but instead she was quiet, and she put a smile on, and she was passive aggressive, or she was polite, whatever, right? And so then we learn as children how to mask certain emotions. So the whole, let's say, color range of blue isn't allowed for you. You're only allowed to experience the green color spectrum of emotions. And anytime an emotion on the blue color spectrum comes in, you immediately mask it with green. That's what a lot of us are doing, like a lot of us. And be curious how you're doing that. You know, rather than rejecting that, be curious in where you're doing it. You can only win. Like, if you're curious, you've already won. Curiosity opens the field. Feeling like you have an answer collapses the field. So stay curious in this. And that goes for a lot of people, right? A lot of people don't believe that rage, for example, is an appropriate emotion to express, when rage is a really powerful fuel when used correctly. And a lot of people are not allowing themselves to feel devastating sadness, right? So a lot of times we mask that with anger, because anger might be a little more comfortable to feel than the immense devastation that is actually there. Like when we're in a relationship, sometimes it's easier to express anger than to feel into the immense devastation or heartbreak that is underneath. Like, I feel this with my mom oftentimes. When I just want her to be healthy and true to herself and happy. And when I tell her something that I feel like would improve her life or make it so she lives longer and happier, and she doesn't do it, a part of me gets angry. And then we have a fight on the phone or whatsoever, and I hang up the phone, and it's just like, what was that? And I'm sad. But because it's sometimes easier to express anger than to admit how freaking scared I am of losing my mom, right? So There's an emotional masking here. But as we're moving into purity, there's no place for this. There's no place for lies in heaven. And that is first and foremost you recognizing, what am I really feeling here? And we've trained ourselves, and we were trained to allow a certain spectrum of emotion and act like the other emotions don't exist. So the moment like devastation or sadness hits us, our energetic body or our emotional body might have already learned how to immediately mask that. So again, that takes self-exploration and self-observation. A lot of times the way you can detect if this is happening is when you feel empty or when you feel numb. Depression, for example. Depression is, to me, I don't label things like that because it doesn't exist like that. Depression to me is just you've masked your emotions for way too long. So now you're just numb. Like depression to me is not sadness. Sadness is good. Depression is I can't feel anything. So when you got to that stage, it's because you've masked your emotions for so long that your body is just like, I can't feel anything. This is when you have to open the door and ask, well, what do we really feel? So depression oftentimes is the protector because you've decided, hey, I don't want to feel all these feelings. The numbness is the protection of like, okay, you told us you don't want to feel that, so now we're protecting you with feeling nothing. Is that better? Probably not, right? And when we are in this numbness or when we're experiencing the depression, let's open the door. What is truly behind that? Can you really feel that? And sometimes you can't. Sometimes you're just not ready to. Sometimes you're scared, and that's okay. But be real. Be real. And acknowledge, I'm portraying this emotion right now, but there's something underneath that I'm not ready to face. And when addictions are flaring up, that's usually when you've masked an emotion. Like when you find yourself scrolling or you find yourself, whatever, right? Smoking the habitual weed on a daily basis, whatever it may be, or you're drinking or you're eating your way out of emotions. Anytime that happens, anytime addictions flare up, it's usually because you've not allowed yourself to get to the core emotion. And that's a process of unmasking, because in society we're taught, yo, this emotion is okay to feel, that one isn't. And if you're feeling this, you better mask it with this one. So that's your process to uncover how and where you're doing that. And again, addiction or depression, the numbness, let's forget about the word depression, but numbness is a good indicator that you've done that for way too long, and now your system is just like, yo, anytime we want to show you what's real, you're blocking it. So now you're just numb. How is that? How is that? Pretty shitty, right? So rather feel devastating sadness for 2 weeks and then move on, right? Than just like masking everything, like, and become an empty shell. I really, really hope that was helpful to you. Again, there's not a 3 steps how to become wealthy. This is self-exploration, this is self-observation, and we've opened a lot of tabs for you to be able to self-interrogate and self-observe. And I am beyond grateful for the community that I can feel, those of you that are commenting, those of you that are working with me. There's a strong grid of women here that are on their mission to embody their Empress energetics and hold that pillar of light even stronger. And I'm really excited. I want to create a Patreon when we hit 1,000 subscribers. So please like and subscribe and help us bring more women together, because I want to create a community. And for those of you that might not be able to get into the courses, or those of you that could require some more support on a on a more consistent basis, I'm like, okay, how do we bring us together more consistently, and how do we also make that more available? How do we make inner work more available? And how do we actually create a community? And to create a community, I need you to meet each other. I need you to find each other. And so I'm sitting with this, but I'm really excited for a Patreon where we meet a couple times a month and we come together to untangle stuff together. So that's currently what I'm seeing. And when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to open that up, because I really believe that we need to come together, and that's great work. Like when we meet, there's a connection that happens. But so I'm questioning, like, how do I open this space? But yeah, Patreon feels really, really exciting. So I would love for us to get this going and create our community here, create this hub where we can find each other, right? Like those of us that are here for the real work, for the deep worth, yeah, also the deep worth, the real work, the deep work, the earth work, and the cosmic work. And those of us that are here to take cosmic responsibility. I want us all to have a way so we can find ourselves. And if I'm the common denominator, freaking great. But essentially, I'm doing this so we can all elevate each other and meet each other in this truthful way. I freaking love you. Support the channel, like and subscribe if you haven't. And if that was helpful, let me know, comment. Let me get to know you in the comment section, or however. I'm also available for sessions, and there's a free way to connect with me. There's a free 15-minute session. If you are not sure in which way we could work together or how the work could look like, please feel free. The button is still there for a reason. I love to connect with you. I'm honored to connect with you, and I love you. I'll see you next week.